Welcome everyone to the video podcast series, Lifestyle by Design. I am Margaret Wiltshire, the host, and tonight I have a very, very special guest. His name is Mitch Gandy, and he comes all the way from La Jolla, California, where it's nice and sunny right now. Mitchell, welcome.
The sun is just poking out. Well, thank you so much for having me, Margaret.
That's awesome. Mitchell is one of the co-founders of Fanpage Traffic Academy, a great online program if you want to learn, online course, if you want to learn about how to increase traffic to your fan page. I know because I have signed up and I have been following the steps and working diligently and have seen results, I must say. And it's a pretty thorough course, so I definitely recommend it. And I'm not getting paid to say that. I love the course, and I think Mitch and Jesse are great, and I applaud what they're doing because they work really hard and they have a really great team. So welcome, Mitchell.
Oh, well, thank you so much for that. Yes, I appreciate all of that. We work really hard, you know.
You guys do. And, you know, I see you guys like working your butts off on Facebook, and, you know, you can see the growth and you can see the consistency. And I know it's going to pay off, you know, even more because you guys are actually like scaling a lot more right now.
Yeah, you know, we just want to provide as much value as we can. I mean, that's really in the end, you know, I grew up wanting to be an entrepreneur. And so it's all about changing people's lives, you know, making an impact in people's lives. Positive impact. And so we're just trying to continue to progress our trainings and everything we're doing so that we could help people in different ways. So that's why yeah.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. So Mitchell, what's your story? Share your story with us about your journey to entrepreneurship.
So yeah, so I mentioned that I grew up wanting to be an entrepreneur, and I did. I literally, when I was 8 years old, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was 8 years old, and I had no idea at the time what an entrepreneur was, but I looked up to my grandfather and I wanted to be just like him. And so he was the man. He was charismatic. He owned every room that he walked into, and I wanted to be just like him. And so, you know, I followed in his footsteps, and even at 8 years old, you know, I remember him taking the pen caps off of the pens and throwing them and say, I don't have any use for these pen caps. I don't know why they put caps on pens anyway. And he made a golf bet. He was a professional golfer, and he made a bet one time that he could beat his opponent with one club, and they can pick the only club that they would like. And so he ended up winning that bet. And so he was a pretty fun guy. And unfortunately, when I was 13 years old, we lost him to cancer. Oh. And that was a devastating moment for me. It affected me personally. You know, I struggled with depression, and I struggled in school, and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life at that point, because I had decided I was going to be an entrepreneur. I decided I was going to be just like my grandpa. And at that point, he was gone, and I wasn't going to be able to follow in his footsteps. And so, you know, I really struggled in school, and I started getting picked on and bullied. And, you know, I was actually thrown in the garbage can in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade by bullies. I was walking home from school in 9th grade after being thrown in the garbage can, and I was picked up on the side of the road by bullies, thrown in the trunk of the car, driven outside of town, and just left on the side of the road to figure out how to get my way home. And, you know, I was just sitting there picking myself up off of the ground, dusting the dirt off, wiping the blood from my arm and the tears from my eyes, and just saying to myself, you know what? I am never letting this happen to me again. I am not going to allow other people to dictate what's going to happen in my life. I'm going to learn how to protect myself. I'm going to get some self-respect. And so I decided at that moment, that was a big turning point in my life, because I was finally going to take back control of my life. And I decided to join the wrestling team.
Good for you.
And so for me, I was going to learn how to protect myself and become a wrestler. And because I looked up to those guys, they were the ones on the school campus that You know, they carried themselves. They weren't the tough bully guys. They were just the guys that nobody messed with. And so I tried out for the wrestling team, and I got on the team and started practicing with the team. And we all had our first tournament. So they brought us all out, loaded us on the bus, took us out to this tournament, and it was in this huge gymnasium. And we all got matched up with an opponent. And I got my opponent. I found out my opponent was extremely successful. They were experienced. They had been, wrestling for a long time. And so I started getting nervous. And then I found out that my opponent was a girl. And I was terrified. I was completely petrified with the idea that I was in a lose-lose situation. If I won, I would have beaten a girl. And if I lost, I would have lost to a girl. And so this experience was just, I can just remember it so vividly, and getting onto the mat and the match starting and my mom and dad are in the crowd cheering me on, like, go Mitchell, go. And it's a back and forth match. And we're just, it's just back and forth. I could just see it, just slow motion. And, I would get some points and yay, I could hear my mom. And then she would take me down and get some points. And it was just this back and forth match. And my brother's in the crowd and he's, go Mitchell, go. Oh, and then he's just like, come on, bro. You gotta win. You gotta win. He's just, everybody's just pulling for me. And I was so grateful that day that I became victorious and I won. It was a close match, but I won. And I came out and it was just this huge turning point when I realized that I could do this. I could protect myself. I started getting the respect of my peers, and I started gaining self-respect, and I started being able to really, realize that I had confidence and I could do things that I decided that if I set out to do it, I could get it done. And so that is when I realized, you know what, I can do this. I can do what I always wanted to do, which was to be just like my grandpa. And I don't know what this is right now, but I'm going to figure it out. And so that's when I decided entrepreneurship was where I was going to go. I didn't know how to get there, but I was going to figure it out. And so entrepreneurship was what I was going to do. I decided my first entrepreneurial venture was going to be an MLM. And, my first, I don't know, the Herbalife was the distributor, and Herbalife, this guy loaded us up all into his car and, was gonna, his plan was to drive everybody around town and take signs and hammer them up on the street corners, and that was going to be the plan. And I was just like, this is not sustainable. The city is just not excited about signs being up all over the place. But I was like, all right, this isn't going to work. But what I realized was I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this. But I started getting calls. And it was just this switch went off in my mind, like, if I put up an offer in front of traffic, then I can actually get success and get people to start calling me. Like that is something that's actually possible. So the idea of traffic and conversions was my reality. That was a possibility. So that was a really big eye opener. And then my second opportunity was working with a small business owner at this skate shop. And so we had this great idea because in our city, we didn't have skate parks. And so, we started a petition, let's get a skate park together. So we had the idea, what if we put our petition into the other skate shops? Because there would be skaters in there similar to the skaters that were coming into our shop. And what we realized, and I don't know if you're familiar with a petition, but a petition has a name, an address, email address, and phone number of all of the people who are interested in signing the petition. So we put the petitions in these other skate shops, and we very quickly started developing a list of the customers going into these other skate shops. So list building had begun, and the power of list building and finding ideal customers in these you know, other markets in these other, you know, situations, that was just such an eye opener for me. So trafficking, conversions, and list building at a very early age, I started realizing that and seeing the power of that. I started my first business, brick and mortar, when I was 25.
Okay.
And my family, I got the opportunity. I was so grateful for that opportunity. I sat down with the owner that I was to buy the shop from, and he made the offer, and I said, let's do it. You know, that was the negotiating skills that I had. At the time, I had no doubt that I would figure it out. And so I worked every day. You know, I worked every single day. That first year, I literally worked 365 days in that first year, every single day. And I realized after that first year that, you know, my life, my body was falling apart. My relationships were falling apart. My business wasn't all that successful. And I was like, you know, I have to make a change, because working every single day, all day, is not the best way to be my best self and to put my best self forward with this business. And so I continued on. So that was when I decided I was going to make a life change.
Okay.
But as far as, so that's when high performance and lifestyle design started for me. And that was when I was 20, you know, 10 years ago. I decided I have to make a change, because I can't work every day. I continued with that business. After 3 years, the most success that I ever had in that business was on MySpace.
Okay.
And so if you remember MySpace,
I remember MySpace.
I was able to reach out to the ideal customers in my market, directly connect with them efficiently. You know, I was getting calls every single day. You know, oh, hey, we have this coupon book. Would you like to be part of our, and sure, let's try it out. Oh, hey, you know, we have this calendar. Would you like to sponsor our event? You know, and when you have a brick and mortar store, you're getting calls every day. You know, oh, hey, you know, be a part of this or be a part of that. And, you know, I wanted to try them all out, because I wanted to do anything that I could to be successful. So I would try them all out. MySpace, by far and away, the most efficient and effective strategy that I implemented. And so I just the power of the internet and the efficiency of the internet and social media at that moment, to me, was such an eye opener. And I got through that experience of the 3 years. I ended up selling that business, but I got out of that thinking, you know, like, I just really wish I knew in the beginning what I knew now, because I would be able to do so much more. All that hard work that I put forward would have been focused in one direction. I'd be able to focus and be so much more successful. You know, I was able to learn a lot through that experience. But being able to really have that help, if I would have known, I just really wanted to help other entrepreneurs. I just really wanted to help other people get through those rough times, you know, and get through that process of just trying to figure it out. And so that's where I started to develop that desire of helping other entrepreneurs on their path. And so I partnered up with my business partner, Jesse Dobeck, and we started working with small business owners, and we started to get some success on Facebook. And now we're doing, you know, we have the internet marketing training, the Fanpage Traffic Academy, just like you mentioned. We're doing group coaching. We have our live events, and we do consulting for internet marketing. So that's been the path, and kind of my story of how I've gotten to this point where I'm extremely passionate about entrepreneurship and helping entrepreneurs. And I had that huge moment 10 years ago when my life was falling apart. And so I dedicated my life since then to figuring out lifestyle design and improving my life so that I was, you know, becoming happier and healthier and living my full life. So I feel like those two things together for me are my biggest passions.
Wow. And I can tell that you're very passionate about it. It comes across.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what about, so now, right, you figured out what entrepreneurship is, right?
Yes.
So what is it about entrepreneurship that appeals to you the most?
You know, I really, it started from realizing that I just wasn't a great employee.
Okay.
And, you know, interestingly enough, when I was 16 years old, my first job was working at Walmart. And I was the best cart boy, like, in the entire city. Like, nobody, like, those carts were full at Walmart. And so, you know, I was, that first year, I was a great cart pusher. That was my job. That was what I did, and I was great at it. And, you know, I that first year, I got an excellent review as a cart pusher. And so things were great. The problem was that I got a promotion. And so I was moved from pushing carts to managing the furniture department. And, you know, at the local Walmart, the furniture department, there's not a whole lot going on. There's a few pieces of furniture, and if they're either there or they're not. And so the drive and you know, the dedication to the craft of being, you know, great at what I did had been lost because I didn't really have the upside of, you know, and the joy, and something's changed. There was a big shift, and I became really just not very good at being the employee at Walmart anymore. There wasn't a lot of satisfaction from doing that job. And so after that, you know, I was really young. I was only 16, so I still had 10 years before I became an entrepreneur. And I had, you know, a few jobs going through college and after, and it was never the same because I just lost that. There wasn't an upside. There wasn't enough upside for me to do what I wanted to do well and to, you know, make the next progression through the career and get that humongous amount of, you know, personal joy and value and experience from that job. And so I just, not being a great employee and then having the taste of being an entrepreneur and being the final person to make the decision and having full control and having nobody telling you what you have to do or what you don't, you know what I mean? Like just having that taste and that experience, I just don't know that I could ever go back. I just, you know, it's the freedom of having 100% of the say and the control and having nobody to answer to and having no ceiling.
I like that, having no ceiling.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that's very interesting because you know, you had that awareness, like you were going through, it seems so far like you're very aware, like even what was happening when you were bullied, you know. And I shared with you, I was having this interview the other night with a woman who was a forensic psychic, and she had so much trauma happen to her. Like her first husband almost killed her and pretty much left her, she would have been paralyzed while she was pregnant with their first child. But then she turned around and she said, you know, these things happen to help me because out of it, right, like courage was born. Yeah. And these great things were born and they helped shape her, and she uses her gift to like help and protect people. And that's what you're doing. Like you went through all of these things that actually helped transform you. They were, even though they weren't good things and they hurt in the moment physically and emotionally, you know, you kind of like, you were transformed and a new courage was born and you kept elevating. And now you're like helping people. You want to help people. And I can clearly see that your passion is there, like wanting to help people not go through a lot of, you know, what you had to go through. So tell me, How, hmm, so many questions are like just racing to my mind. It's like, so for you, what was one of the biggest obstacles you encountered on this route?
I think it was the fear of failure and the fear of I think the fear of failure to me was in that self-confidence, because I think that's something that you develop. I'm so grateful for my mom, to how she raised me. She would tuck me in every night and say, every day in every way, you're getting better and better, and you can do anything you want as long as you know what it is.
Yeah.
And so that growth mindset was instilled at me at like a really young age. But it was just ripped away, because I grew up in a, I don't know that I was terribly shy, but I was just like a nice kid, where that, I felt like I don't know if I was quiet, if I was shy. I don't know if those were things, but for whatever reason, I was bullied. I was bullied consistently through school. And I don't know if that was because I was going through personal struggles or whatnot, but I really lost a lot of confidence going through that experience for probably, 6, 7, 8 years of my life. I don't know if it was the environment, a combination of the things, but it really took a humongous toll on me, my confidence, my ability to figure things out at that point, and belief in myself. And, I think there's always the ups and downs. But I think that, you don't have, I didn't have a lot of people around me who were going through the same journey that I was. And for me, I was actually getting a lot of feedback from the people around me that what I was trying to do to become an entrepreneur was crazy, or that I would never figure it out, or that it was a bad idea, or that all of the naysayers, and when you're in an environment that just eats at you, you're always doubting yourself, and you're never sure if you're going to be able to get it achieved, get it figured out. And so I think that, to me, that fear, that doubt, that lack of confidence, those were the hardest things to get over. Without a question, those are the biggest ones.
Okay. So what did failure mean to you? What was your definition of failure? What does it look like?
I never wanted to be the person that couldn't take care of myself and be the older man that needed to move back home with my parents, or struggled to pay for my bills, or I never really wanted to be that person. And so, and I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was a little kid. I wanted to be able to do it on my own. And so if I wasn't able to be in a position to run a business that I was able to help people do business the right way, and be successful enough to be able to, pay for all my own bills, then that was going to be failure for me. I would not have been, if I wasn't able to figure that out, then that would have been failure. But I just, having that growth mindset, I think I would have lost battles, but I don't think I would have ever lost the war. I never would have given up completely. I just think I would have lost along the way. And I believed eventually that I would be able to figure it out. So.
Okay. So just so our viewers, understand, you are a successful entrepreneur today. You still work your butt off, but you're enjoying life a bit more. You're not working as hard.
It's amazing.
And you're having fun.
It's amazing that you don't work less as an entrepreneur. The surprising thing is that you actually work a whole lot more, but you work. I love what I do. So it's so hard for me to say that I'm actually working. I'm not punching in my time card to dedicate myself to thinking about my business. Like, I'm already always thinking about it. I have to actively turn it off because I'm so passionate about executing what it is that our goals are through our business. And that's been a big struggle for me, is to be able to turn it off and dedicate and focus my time to other things, because I'm so dedicated to being successful in business. I've actually found that being able to turn it off has helped me focus more and dedicate myself more to my business. But yeah, that's an interesting thing, that you actually work a lot more. I think there's a saying, something like you work, anyway, you definitely work so much more, but it's not the same. I don't know. It just doesn't even count.
Well, it's more meaningful and purposeful work, right? You know, so it gives us that sense of personal and even spiritual fulfillment, like we're doing what we're meant to do. And I think sometimes that just makes the world of difference, you know. And it's not, go ahead.
You know, I mean, there's something about having purpose, a sense of purpose, that completely changes the way that you think about your life. It completely changes your own self feeling of happiness. It completely changes your perspective on your well-being. And it's weird because it wouldn't be something that you could put your finger on and point to and say, this is what it was. But it's just like this internal feeling of, you know, I'm doing what I love doing. You just know it. It's like in your bones.
Yeah, that's amazing. So tell me, you said one of your biggest obstacles was fear and lack of confidence. Now at this point you decided, I like entrepreneurship and I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to give up this battle. What did you have to let go of to step into this person, the entrepreneur?
You know, going through being bullied, losing my grandpa, and then going through being bullied and being picked on and being told that I couldn't do what I wanted to do. That was really, really hard. And it's like something that you get into your subconscious that you don't even realize you're holding on to. Like, you don't even realize that you're telling yourself that you might not be able to do it, even though you're actively saying, I can do this, I can do it. But there's something subconsciously that just seems to just dig its nails in and not want to let go. For me, that was the case. That I went through this experience. It was, you know, when you mentioned being bullied, this, you know, when you brought that up again, and the first thing that came into my mind was when we had our first event, and I spoke on stage for the first time and told my story for the first time. And I got this overwhelming amount of feedback and this humongous response from the people who were in the crowd. And I literally went home and I cried literally over the course of the next 2 days. Wow. Like, I would just have these bouts of like overwhelming emotion that would just well up, and I would just start crying. Like 2 days later, my wife's like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm literally still just completely emotionally overwhelmed from the experience at the event. And it wasn't the fear of speaking or some other type of fear. It was literally what I was holding on to from the experiences that I went through growing up. I was literally still holding on to being picked on and bullied for living my life the way that I was living it, being told that I was doing it wrong. And subconsciously, I was finally able to let it go, and finally able to say, you know what? I'm right. I'm right for the way I'm living my happiness. And I was finally, you know, that is such, I'm not even kidding you, 2 days I was crying. My wife had never seen me cry.
You're healing.
She had never seen me cry, and wow. I just let it all out.
Yeah. You needed to release. You were totally healing. It's all part of that process. And you probably didn't even realize that it was like just laying right under the surface.
It absolutely was. It was still in there. Subconscious is such a powerful thing. I'm fascinated by hypnosis because of the subconscious mind is such a powerful piece of our life.
Yeah. It's amazing, but you're a champion, and the best vengeance, so to speak, is success. It's saying, yo, you said I couldn't do it. Look at me now.
Right.
I'm doing it.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's what you did. It's all a positive experience.
Absolutely.
So I know personally that being an entrepreneur is really, really, really tough work. And like you mentioned, when it is, well, you're passionate about it, but you're working all the time. And it could be 24/7. It's funny because Mother's Day weekend, just this weekend, I made myself unplug for Sunday. And I just kept thinking of all the things that I needed to do. And it was like a kind of like a battle, and a mental battle, because on one hand it felt good to like not have to do anything, but then it was like, oh my God, I have all these things, and it didn't feel like work. Like these are things that I want to do, that are coming from me, that are helping people, and so it was quite interesting. I was like, ooh, this is kind of hard to unplug today. And it was interesting. But how do you stay motivated in those moments when things can get maybe a little challenging or overwhelming?
So I am very analytical, I guess. I don't know. I really enjoy like frameworks. For 10 years ago, I was like, I need to figure out my life. I need to figure out how I can design my life so that I can focus on dedicating myself to what I want to be a great at, which is my entrepreneurship, but not have my life completely fall apart where I don't have any relationships and my health is struggling because I'm not happy. Being great at entrepreneurship only would not make me happy. And that was almost the additional realization that I went through. Okay. And so I'm fascinated by designing my life and with a framework to figure out, okay, what are the things that are really making me tick and making me happy and making me successful? And so for me, motivation is a big thing. And I think the self-awareness is a critical piece. If you are self-aware of how you're doing, you're checking in on yourself. How am I doing today? I'm not really that motivated. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a conversation that a lot of people have with themselves. You know what I mean? Sure. They don't recognize that they're slacking. And I feel like that's a humongous asset of mine. And successful people in general is that they are extremely self-aware of what's really going on with themselves. And I don't know if that's something you can learn, but that self-awareness is absolutely a practice. Okay. So being self-aware is a critical thing. With that self-awareness, we can start asking ourselves questions. Okay. And for me, there are 6 things that contribute to our motivation.
Okay.
And being self-aware of these 6 things allows us to maintain motivation in any situation. If we are lacking motivation, it is because one of these 6 things. The first thing is ambition. The first thing is desire. The first thing is, okay, and when we're talking about motivation, I like to think of goals. So we're trying to achieve a goal. So we're motivated to achieve a goal. If we're just talking about motivation in general, it's harder to be specific. So we're talking about, I want to be motivated to achieving a goal, which could be any goal. So I have this goal. How bad do you want it? Like, literally ask yourself that. I'm trying to achieve that goal and I don't really seem that motivated. Why? And the first question should be, how bad do I want it? Like how bad do you really want whatever it is you're trying to achieve? Because if you don't want it that bad, you're not going to stay motivated to get it done. You're just not. You're going to lose that motivation very, very easily.
Okay.
The second
I'm
thing.
taking notes.
Okay, cool. So ambition, desire, huge number one. Number two is belief and or expectancy. And so you've got this desire and it's really, really strong. You really, really want something. Now you ask yourself, I'm not really feeling motivated, but I really want this. The second question is, do you believe that you can have that? Do you expect that you can achieve it? Because if there's this internal doubt, if there's this subconscious doubt that you don't really believe that you can achieve what it is you want, you're not going to be motivated to get it done. You're just not, you're going to lose your motivation because you're going to say, well, I don't really know that I can achieve this. So I'm just going to kind of tiptoe around and just going to go half in, you know, until you believe that you can have it. And sometimes you just got to fake it. Sometimes you literally got to just wake up and tell yourself 10 times every morning, I can do this, you know? So how bad do you want it? And do you really believe that you can get it done? Because those two things critical. Number three is focus and attention. So you're like, I really want that thing and I know I can get it. I'm just not really feeling motivated. What's going on? And the third thing is, am I paying attention to what it is I'm trying to get done? Am I distracted? Do I have 8 things on my desk that I'm trying to get done at the same exact time? Am I allowing myself to be, have 8 phone conversations, phones, and so I'm getting a call and I'm getting an email and I got notifications and am I being distracted? Am I focused and paying attention to achieving my goal? And I think as far as high performance is concerned, allowing yourself to put yourself in a situation to pay all of your attention to one thing is such a critical piece. And so ask yourself, I'm not really feeling motivated. Am I paying attention to achieving what it is I'm trying to get done? So desire, belief, attention. Number 4 is effort. And it's like, okay, you really want to get something done. You think you can do it and you're paying attention to it, but how hard are you really trying? You know what I mean? Like you sit there and you got to ask yourself and you got to be your hardest critic. Like, dude, you're kind of slacking today. You know what I mean? Like, dude, you kind of got to step it up. And if you could be real with yourself, that is a big self-awareness step. You could say to yourself, look, I'm just not really putting my 100% effort in today. I got to step it up. And if you actively, see, these are all active things, and you generate this motivation by actively finding something that you really want to do really bad. You actively believe, you tell yourself, you actively are focusing your attention and you're actively putting in the effort. You're getting yourself out of bed and you're putting in the effort. So that's number 4. Number 5 is attitude. Number 5 is what kind of an attitude, what kind of attitude are you bringing to your situation? Are you being negative? Are you being doubtful? Are you having this negative attitude? Are you not really feeling it? Because that attitude, having this positive attitude, if you don't have that, and it'll go into the next one, and sometimes it's out of your control in some ways because you got a lot of things coming in internally, but you've got to really think about what you're generating. Am I generating positivity right now? Am I generating a positive attitude for my situation. Because you're trying to achieve this goal. And if you're hitting a roadblock, it's really easy to lose motivation. You're sitting there saying, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to figure this out. Well, you just got to ask yourself, are you bringing a positive attitude? So that's number 5. And the last one is environment. And I think this contributes to a lot of these things. If you don't find yourself in an environment to be successful, you can easily lose motivation. And, you know, you can have negativity around you. You could have distractions around you. You can have, you know, just not be in the right place. And so those are the absolute critical 6 steps to maintaining. And I feel like you can build motivation, you can maintain it, and you can develop it in all those things with being intentional about these 6 things for sure.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for sharing that, because they're all very, very important, and it's true. And if you have one of these things that, you know, you're not that intentional or active, as you said, about, you know, it can affect the whole piece, you know. So it is important to do all of these things.
That's the thing, right? You got to ask yourself. You got to say, you know, you got to have that self-awareness, and you got to ask yourself those questions. Am I bringing it? Am I generating these 6 things?
That'd be a great checklist, you know, even for someone who didn't feel that confident, you know, in what it is they'd like to do, but just every day being intentional, going through this list, you know, and just not listening to that critical voice and just going at it. It's a great checklist here, and checking off everything and just playing full out, you know. This is really great.
Yeah, I live by this. I absolutely live by this. Absolutely. This is such a critical factor. Such a critical thing to live by. Yeah, so.
And what are some high performance strategies that you implement? You care to share some with us?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that motivation's a big thing for success. I think that successful people are motivated people, and they're motivated, and therefore they're able to achieve what it is they want to achieve. I think that's a critical thing. So, I talked about it 10 years ago. I started this path towards high performance and lifestyle design, and really just trying to figure it out. And so I've started to develop along the way the things that improve my life, the things that I need to have to really be my best self. And, you know, you go through the things like, are you sleeping? Are you drinking plenty of water? Are you eating healthy? Are you taking your supplements? Are you exercising? Like, those are such simple things, but like, let's be real. You're not feeling motivated today. You're not bringing your best foot forward. And you know, you hear that a lot. And it's like, I don't know why I'm not motivated. Those 5 things, like I've got a couple more, but those 5 things, like those are just like the go-to. Like if we're going to be happy, we've got to have those 5 things. Sleep, water, eat. So you got to have a healthy diet, take your supplements, and exercise. Those are the big 5. But let's say we're doing all those things. You got all those things figured out. And I think this goes back to motivation. This goes back to everything with high performance. Most critical thing that I absolutely changed everything I was doing. And this is blocking time. And let me tell you exactly what that is. There's a couple things that happen when you block time to focus all of your energy on one thing. The biggest thing that happens is you allow yourself to remove all distractions. You're putting 100% of your effort towards one thing. That's what you do when you block time. You completely remove all distractions, which isn't all that easy. Turn off all your notifications, turn off your phone, have nothing in the way of what you're going to accomplish for an hour, for 2 hours. And this can happen with your business, but then this can also be something that you implement into your personal life. I'm going to put 100% of my effort to Mother's Day, right? I'm not going to have any distractions. I'm not going to allow anything to come in the way of my focus on Mother's Day. And this literally in business will change people. There's this idea that we're great multitaskers. It's so not true. We're horrible multitaskers. And if we were to allow ourselves to dedicate ourselves to one thing, we would be so much more efficient. So it allows us to dedicate ourselves to one thing. What it also do is it allows us to take back control of our time. We are pulled in so many directions, pulled by so many other people's wants and needs and desires and things that they're trying to figure out. When we block time to focus on what we are trying to achieve, that's when we take back the control of our ability to get that stuff figured out. And it seems harsh, but the reality is, even if you just block short periods of time to remove all the distractions, only to focus on one thing, that will change your ability to get the success and the goals you're trying to achieve. So for me, this was such a big one. Block the time to focus on one thing. And then the last one, this is a big one. And it, for a lot of people who dedicate themselves to what they do, a lot of people who are really passionate about what they do, they allow themselves to get engulfed by what they're doing and go on these benders where they're just working 12 hours, 18 hours at a time, nonstop. But I've found consistently that when I allow myself to take a break on a regular basis, and I'm talking about like a regularly scheduled break, like I got a timer that I put on my computer so that every hour on the hour, 50 minutes, I got a timer that goes off where I take a 10-minute break. I stand up, I move around, I get some water, and it's changed my ability to maintain a really good focus, maintain really high output. So yeah, so those are the two big ones.
Okay, that's really important. I have my notes here, and it's funny, you talked about these 5 things, sleep, just on fundamentally, like things to help sustain our body, sleep,
Yeah,
water, healthy diet, staying hydrated, supplements. I mean, so
and
I
exercise.
An exercise.
Moving.
I have a day job, like I work for a big property investment firm in New York City. And those guys, I mean, like really successful real estate guys, diet awful, not much and it's not even, and they're working for the company. And it's so interesting that, even people who are not entrepreneurs, but just let's say regular life, like we get so caught up in like doing things. And I have been there because my background's in accounting and I was in tax, and I know for 15 hours a day, like coffee was what kept me up. And not hydrating, and just, we neglect our health. And on a fundamental level, it is so important for brain function. It's important for physical function, and just us being able to function at a high performance, at a high level. So thank you for sharing that, because that is something that's often neglected. It's like all these strategies and all these great things, but you know what? We've got to be able to keep this body running, and for it to be able to function at a higher level, we need to take care of it. And it's important to take that break. That is important.
Yes, absolutely. Blocking time and taking breaks. Blocking time is the big one for me. And, you can block time to focus on your health, focus on your exercise, focus on your sleep. Like, we're talking about removing all outside influence, taking us away from achieving what we're trying to achieve. And I think that those are big steps that the most successful people, it's why they're able to get so much accomplished, is because they don't try to do a million things. They don't allow a million things to distract them. They take 100% of their effort to focus on accomplishing one thing. A lot of those guys spend lots of money. They're really successful. They make tons of money and they spend it on things like cars, things like lots of things. They spend their money on lots of things, right? Vacations, whatever. What a lot of times what would be extremely beneficial for them is to spend that, and even if it's not money, if it's just energy, if it's just attention, if they spent that those resources on dedicating them to their own health and their wellness and their well-being, it would actually be beneficial to their business.
Wow. Words of wisdom. So I am not going to keep you too long. I know that you have something to do, but I do have 2 questions. One is, what would your future self tell your current self? And then the other one is just what I do here all the time. Ask my guests to give 3 action steps. You gave us a lot of things tonight, but what, for someone who's looking and they want to start living their dreams and creating this lifestyle that they want to live, a lifestyle that, they see in their head, but they don't know how to make it happen. What are 3 things they could implement into their life right away to start making it happen? So I'll go back to question 1. What would your future self tell your current self now?
I would like to think that my future self would tell me that it's all going to be all right. It makes me kind of emotional, but yeah, I think that would be the big one, because I think it's easy to get caught up. I don't know. Life is hard. Business is hard. Being happy is hard. And, you just try your hardest to get it figured out. And I'd like to think that my older self would be wise enough to tell me now that everything's going to be all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And now, what would you tell people who are listening who want to maybe embark on the entrepreneurial journey, or maybe they just, want to do something that is a dream for them, but it seems difficult right now, and they're not sure how to make it happen? What would you say? What 3 action steps would you offer?
Well, I am an absolute freak about lists. I love me some lists. And there's something powerful about writing down your goals and what you want to accomplish. And I find, and hopefully anybody who's following along, they if they enjoyed, they would follow me on Facebook. I do a thing called Message Mitch, and I get a lot of feedback from people. And a lot of times, they're like, I don't know what I want to do. And the first thing I ask is, have you ever thought about it? Have you ever asked yourself that question? And so I think that's the initial process is ask yourself what it is that you want to do, what it is that you want to achieve. Write it down in a list. And I like, call it a bucket list. Call it your life goals, but absolutely start with that question. Ask yourself what it is you want to do and write it down. That would be the absolute first step to getting to being happy, to knowing what it is. Because my mom told me every day and every way you're getting better and better, and you can have anything you want as long as you know what it is. And so I've dedicated myself to becoming good at knowing what it is. The second thing would be that you have to be completely okay with being wrong. And I think that's a big hurdle for a lot of people is, I don't know what I want to do. And it's like, all right, well, ask yourself the question. What do I want to do? And sit down and write it. Well, I want this, but I don't know if that's what I should put. Well, that's what you want. And you have to be completely okay with that might not being what you want. later. So ask yourself what it is you want, write it down, and be completely okay with just being wrong. And when you dedicate yourself to focusing on your goals, you put them down on paper, you start your path to achieving them, you will figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
I think that's the best I could give you.
Okay. And for everyone listening, you can find Mitch at, it's like what, http:/. I have, for those who are going to receive the replay of this, I actually have in the message thing, I don't know if you can see it, but it's Ask Mitch Anything About Business and the hashtag Message Mitchell. But Mitch is on Facebook, facebook.com/Mitchell Gandy, MITCHELLGANDY. Am I correct with the spelling there?
Yes, well, JNDY.
Yes, and Mitch will answer your questions. I have asked a couple myself, and he has taken the time. While it looked like he was splunking somewhere, you were like in a cave somewhere, and you responded. So that was pretty cool. And I do love that. I do love that that you take the time, you take your time to help others. And what's really cool is that, like, you're always on the beach somewhere, or you're always doing something like really cool, or you're like in a boat in the middle of the ocean somewhere, taking the time to respond, you know, which is really cool. So you can find Mitch again on facebook.com/Mitchell Gandy, and he will answer your questions. And that was Mitchell here tonight, Mitchell Gandy. He is the co-founder, one of the co-founders of Fanpage Traffic Academy, a really great online course. They're doing a lot more. They're doing coaching, and they have a live show, which I'm hopeful that I'll make it to in June, because I got my free ticket with the program. So I am super duper excited. I'm grateful for your time here tonight. I am grateful for everything you shared, for you sharing your journey. I am grateful and I honor you for being able to find that courage within yourself, to stand up, to step into that light and to shine, because that is courageous. You are courageous. You are courageous. Courageous. That's an interesting word. Courageous. You know, and that's what it's all about. Like, we have this gift that we've been given called personal power, and we can choose. All it is just making a decision. And your example, your inspiration, you've done that, and you're doing that with your life, and you're helping others. So I truly honor you, and I really appreciate you sharing your time and your story with us, Mitchell. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
And keep doing what you're doing.
You too, girl.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I know that you have a call, and you're off. Have fun and go help someone else.
You're so great. Appreciate you. So grateful. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Love this
Mitch.
experience.
Same here.
Talk to you soon. I hope to see you
You'll
in San Diego.
Yes, and you'll see me on Facebook too.
Absolutely. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.